before anybody hops on, let me just do the, intro stuff. My name is Zoha, and I am a 200-hour certified yoga teacher, certified Reiki healer, and look at that sun. I also am a trauma wellness coach, and I combine all of those three things in my work, and I create a space for healing for women. And I also, what else do I do? I create jewelry, crystal jewelry for healing, because that's my modality, is healing. And if you want to find out more about me, the link is in my bio. But I wanted to hop on. Highs are here. I wanted to hop on today and talk about, I'm outside, so I'm hoping this goes well. Doing my walk. It's my first time getting to walk this week. It's the first day I've had a low amount of clients. And so I thought I'd take the extra time and get out the house and do something for me. This is part of my self-care. I'm fine. Thank you. But I was watching a TikTok. I was watching TikTok, and it came up several times. Women were on TikTok, and every time they started a video, they would be like, "Excuse the way I look," and I was like, "Damn, how many times am I going to see a video where someone is saying this?" And I remember how those beliefs and those get instilled in you, and how you are conditioned to believe things like that. Peace, hi MLS. And so for women to just get on the internet, and before they even share what they want to share, they're sharing their shame around how they show up. And honestly, everyone who said it was gorgeous. And it really like ticked something in me, like, damn, if these women who care about their appearance to some modicum are this concerned about whether or not their message will be heard, because beauty standards are what they are, and they outweigh the message, they outweigh what the person has to share, then we are really in a pickle. We behind. Beauty standards and aesthetics are a thing, and they are usually a personal requirement, right? We all have things that we think are beautiful, people who we think are attractive, and things of that nature, right? And that doesn't mean we're bad people because we have those thoughts. It's when we apply those same thoughts and feelings to everyone and try to make everyone live under our belief system that is the problem. It is harmful. And most women and men are conditioned like this from childhood. And what is the belief? The belief is that I need to be aesthetically pleasing or attractive in order to be heard, valued, loved, and seen. Heard, valued, loved, and seen. So if I don't fit a certain beauty aesthetic, then no one will value me, no one will love me, no one will hear me, no one will see me. This is what we're doing to people. These are the beliefs we're instilling in children, because these are adults at this point. So this conditioning started young in order for them to come on the internet and think, I have to apologize for how I look before I can even begin to talk. It's pervasive, it's harmful, and it's a sickness for women or anyone who has valuable information to first think, how do I look, before they disseminate that information. And I get it, people look a certain way, people talk a certain way, people dress a certain way. That means they have access to XYZ, which is not always true. Millionaires do not dress nice. People who have run this country do not dress up all the time. They're not trying to fit an aesthetic. Maybe, in the Congress or in lawmakers' view, they are. But the people who are mainly running this country, the 1% who, we don't know what the hell they have on. We don't know anything about these people. But we hold all of these standards to average, normal Americans, normal people all over the world. Like, you have to come on the internet and look a certain kind of way in order to be valued. And I dropped out of that race, I want to say about 6 years ago, because I noticed that I was primping and caring about how I looked before I made a video. And I was like, by the time I finished putting my hair together, putting on a little eyeshadow, lipstick, doing my eyebrows, I didn't want to talk anymore. I didn't even care about what I was talking about. And the real thing is, when you are moved by spirit to talk, spirit don't care how you look, don't care what you got on. This is conditioning. Where do we learn these types of conditions? We learn them from our parents or our caregivers or in school, right? Because I remember when we used to go to school, like, yo, you gotta look this way in order to be let in, right? I went to school right before uniforms were implemented. And, you know, they implemented uniforms for two reasons. A, it was some students like me who couldn't afford new clothes, and so they thought if everyone you wear a uniform, everyone looked alike, then they wouldn't have people getting picked on. And then the other reason was because of aesthetics, right? Because we as a country believe that, and as a people believe that how someone looks tells you who they are. I have met people with real money, real positions, and they are not dressed. I wouldn't even know they had money. I wouldn't even know they had the power and influence that they had if I was basing it on looks. And this type of conditioning is so pervasive, it ruins people who have real thought-provoking things to share. And we're in this age of Aquarius where information is vast, it's everywhere. It's supposed to be like that. We're supposed to get information from everywhere. That's what the age of Aquarius is. It's ushering in the information age, ushering in anti-government, ushering in anti-law, what do you call that, status quo. Because Aquarius is about thinking outside the box. It's about thinking higher. It's about releasing chains, releasing ideals, changing the status quo. So when people are worried about how they look versus what they have to share, what they have to offer, we have done a great disservice to one another as humans. When that's the first thing someone is saying before they disseminate their information. And this conditioning is so volatile that we're probably losing so many thought makers, so many people who should be in positions to move things because they don't have access to certain ways of being, certain language styles, and certain ways of looking in order for us to think that they're valid and important. Some of the most prolific things I hear are from people who most people would not even listen to. People who are reforming from alcoholism or drugs or still living that life. I have imparted some of the deepest wisdom I have ever heard. Why? Because they have lived life. They have done life. They've done checkers in life. They've done Uno. They've done chess. They've done every game. And who would I be to laugh at their vast experience of the world? They've done things I would never do because I'm too cautionary. Because I have judgments and values that won't let me do those things. But that doesn't mean that I can't learn from those same people. Thank you, David. Love you back. And one of the main ways we can get past this is to release the conditioning that we are functioning in, which is going back and establishing, where did I learn this way of thinking? Is it useful to me anymore? Is it holding me back? Is it advancing me? Is it harming me? Is it harming those around me? We have to ask ourselves real questions about how we're showing up in the world in order to release conditioning. We have to be willing to risk authenticity with ourselves. I used to have a belief, right? Because I grew up conditioned to think that if you're over a certain weight, you're a bad person, right? And so getting pregnant and carrying my children was very hard for me because I was always concerned about how much weight I was going to gain during my pregnancy. And after our first pregnancy, that was very rough because I was running and exercising and doing all this shit, and I'm bleeding the whole pregnancy because I won't sit the fuck down. Damn near harm my child trying to keep up an aesthetic that was conditioned into me, that I was taught. You can't be fat. You gotta stay skinny. Nobody likes fat people. And damn near harmed myself and my child just so I could stay at the weight that I thought was acceptable while pregnant, which is insane. It's insane. But that's what my conditioning taught me. And I was not ready to let go of that conditioning until it damn near cost me and my child our lives. We have got to do better. I hate ranting, but sometimes I get so tired. I get so tired of always trying to be the positive, light-hearted one when people are really struggling with being alive and being human, and we don't do anything but make it worse for them. We don't make it a softer place to be. We don't make humanity a softer place to be. People are already dealing with their ingrained biases and beliefs and other conditionings that they have. And then we add ours on top of them just because somebody decided to make a video. We think it's our right to push our conditioning and our judgments and our beliefs on people. Why? Because someone did it to us. So we think, oh, it's my turn now. Have no responsibility towards one another as humans. No, and then we'll say, oh, I want to be loved, I want to be valued. But do you do that? Do you show up that way when it's a time, when it's available to you? It doesn't take anything to be kind to people. It doesn't take anything to not impart your pain on another person. And to actually do the reflective work of asking when you see someone and you have a negative thought about them and you don't know this person from John. Why do I think this? What is this thought getting me? Why do I continue to maintain this thought process? How do I use this thought process against myself, and how does it harm me? We have to shrug off our conditionings. A lot of the ways that we've conditioned to function are harmful and detrimental to ourselves, the people we love, and the people we have no idea that we need to be in contact with, or just are out here living their lives. I do my best every day when I'm scrolling these internets, when I hear that internal voice, because we all have an internal voice, and if you don't think you have an internal voice, just listen. We all have an internal voice that is talking. There's two of them, actually. One is your trauma self, which is sometimes useful. It's not always bad, but for the most part, it's moving from a trauma space. So it's trying to avoid you from getting hurt. It's trying to make sure you stay safe. And sometimes it's spewing out judgments that you believe so that you can stay safe, because in the past, other people judged you in that way and they harmed you with their judgments. And then there's our higher self, or God self, whatever you want to call it, that's talking to you calmly and guiding you, or your intuition, if you want to call it that, and guiding you gently. It's not screaming at you. It's not demanding. It's not incessant. It's not even overpowering you. It's a gentle nudge that's walking you through life. And it doesn't even argue with that other voice. It won't even get involved with that other voice, because that other voice is so corrosive that it doesn't even, interact with it. We interact with it. Like sometimes people are like, it's two people fighting in my head. No, that's you and your higher self is sitting back watching like, look at these fools. Look at them. So we have to learn how to know which voice is which. And the main way that I know that when my trauma is leading is always based in fear, negativity. It's focused in survival, right? And I'm not saying that survival is a bad thing. I'm saying that a lot of times we pit our survival over other humans, right? There's a way to survive and include everybody, right? I don't do that with my kids. When I think about survival, I'm thinking about their survival too. If I'm out with them and I see something pop off, I'm grabbing them. I'm including them in my survival. And growing that intuitive voice or that nurturing higher self voice means that you have to stop reacting so much to your trauma voice, to your conditioned voice. The voice that somebody gave you inside your head when you were small, when you were a youth. And it might even sound like your parents or whoever raised you. It might even take on that quality, because that's how, the only way you will respond. It's sneaky like that. Because, humans want to survive. That's our main character, is survival, safety. And there's a way to feel safe without harming other people. There really is. You just have to figure it out, and without harming yourself too. I remember when I was younger, I used to think that trauma voice was like God, whatever, because it was so loud. And I'd get in these terrible situations because that voice was like, oh, it's cool. Go over there and see what they're doing. And what I learned was, what it was doing, it was putting me in harm's way so that I could stay closer to it. It was like this weird connection that I can't even explain, honestly, until I started hearing the other voice that told me what goodness was. When I started ignoring that trauma voice and it started getting more desperate for my attention, I could feel the fear riding off of it, right? And I knew that that was not a feeling that I wanted. And so I would stop going to it. And when I stopped doing that, the other voice, the higher self, intuition, God self voice started getting more intentional, more vibrant, not loud, just like I felt a trust that I didn't feel with the trauma voice. I never felt trust with this trauma voice, but I listened to it because it was so loud and was so big. It was taking over my space. And I was living in one traumatic situation to the next, to the next, to the next. And it felt like that was what my life was gonna be. Like I couldn't make good decisions because my trauma was so huge and I was letting it take up so much space in my head, and it was living itself out in my life. And at one point I was like, oh my God, can I please just die? This shit is insane. I'm exhausted. But it wasn't until It wasn't until I started really thinking about all the things that I had gotten myself into because I was trying to run away from responsibility, accountability, from just all the things that I was needed to do to take care of myself, to love myself. That voice was running me into the darkness so that I could have all those feelings and beliefs and conditionings that were conditioned into me as a kid by being abandoned, being left in foster care, being beat, being neglected, being abused, can make those things my reality. That I can hold on to that and make that my life. And it is no wonder, like, there was always my intuitive voice. I would be in these horrible situations, experiencing terrible things, and people would be doing all kinds of crazy shit, crack, heroin, everything. And that other voice would always be like, don't you do no drugs. Don't you do it. Don't drink. I did not have a drink till I was 26 years old. Because that intuition voice would be like, don't drink. Don't do drugs. And by the time I was 26, I was literally finally in a decently safe space as an adult for myself. I had figured out not just survival, but a decent thriving, a decent way to live. If I had a drink, I never even smoke weed. I did any of that. When I was living in my trauma, you would not know me this day. Not at all. I come from a family of addicts and alcoholics. That would have just been like giving me exactly what my genetics needed in order for me not to be here. And I just want you to know that based on that, growing up in a home with an addict and an alcoholic who were neglectful and somehow yet abusive, something in my spirit would not let me go that route. I did a lot of other crazy shit happen to me. Gotten a lot of fights and abusive relationships, weird shit. But that part of that story that was passed on me genetically of alcohol abuse and drug abuse was not allowed to enter my life, and I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful for it. And I used to be stoic about all of that. Like I'm still terrified to try anything, even plant medicine, because I just think about all the ways that people think they're going to do something beautiful and amazing for themselves, and then they don't come back. Like, what if your genetics don't work with this thing? Because, I have decades. I can think back. My great-grandmother was a moonshiner. She ran that's how my grandmother became a drunk at age 10, because she's sneaking the moonshine from her mama's place. And when I think back about that, right, I think about how you can be gifted in a lot of ways. You can have a lot of things. And then because you want money, you want like worldly things. And I'm saying worldly not from a church view, because I don't subscribe to that. I'm saying worldly like possessions. You want worldly things, and you forego your own beliefs and standards. And yeah, you get the money, but what did she exchange? She exchanged my grandmother's life. My grandmother became a lifelong alcoholic at the age 10. She died from falling down the steps, cracking her head open because she was drunk. That was her whole entire life. She had a drink every day of her life. All because her mother decided, I'm going to become a bootlegger. And I'm sure that someone in her family told her, don't do that. And she thought, I know better. and didn't know her oldest was sneaking around the back the whole time, getting drunk until it was too late. And then had the nerve to send this child at the age of 12, 13, who already had 3 kids because of the alcoholism, to DC, where she could have a good old time where liquor was everywhere, and expect her to make a life for herself. We have to really think about these bloodlines that we're existing in, these genetics we're existing in, and how not only does the conditioning and the beliefs come from our parents, but it comes genetically. Things are instilled in us, ways of being are instilled in us from just being related to people, and we can't succumb to them. We have to be accountable for ourselves because we know our history, we know our genetics. All right? And this is probably why I do attract a lot of friends, and in the past had attracted a lot of partners who had alcoholism issues, because I grew up with alcoholics and I could deal with them. Like, I could. They're some of the liveliest people you ever meet, depending on how they are when they're drunk. Anyway, I just wanted to share this because we got a lot of work to do. We got a lot of work to do, and this is not about heaven or no weird shit like that. I'm talking about for ourselves, for our children, for our children's children, right? They say, there's a saying that says, he who plants the tree don't get to enjoy the shade. Too many of us want to enjoy the shade and don't want to fucking plant the tree. Don't want to, nurture the tree. Everything I know, everything I am, everything I learn, I pass it on to my children. And maybe they will see it, or maybe their children's children will see it. But I am not invested in seeing it. I'm not. I'm only invested in sharing it. Because that's what love is. Love is thinking beyond yourself. A lot of people will say, love is difficult. And I will say, yes, sometimes it can be difficult when we're thinking about ourselves all the time and what we want, and how we're not getting that immediate satisfaction that love, quote unquote, professes to give. But love does not give immediate satisfaction. I have not truly loved anything or anyone and been gratified by immediately. Never. Anything that I've given something to and I've had instant gratification, I cannot tell you that it was sustainable. I cannot. Most of the time, it was infatuation, lust, or some deep desire that just needed to be fulfilled. But it wasn't love. Love is way deeper than immediacy. And that's what I'm talking about when I talk about beliefs and conditioning. When we approach people with love, and we allow them to show up as they need to show up. As long as they aren't harming themselves or harming anyone, then what are we doing? What is our judgment for? Why do we want to harm them with our judgment? And why do we want to condition them as we've been conditioned? All right, y'all. I appreciate y'all. That was like, if you can't tell, I only get on here when my heart is like pumping hard, and it's like I have a heart-throat connection that is wow. Like something gets in my heart and then it pushes up to my throat chakra, and it's like talk, get it out. And that's what I gotta do. I gotta share. I can't hold it in. If I hold it in, I'm gonna probably have an accident, or something negative is gonna happen to me because I'm not expressing myself in the way that I'm supposed to express myself. Expression is healthy. Expression is wonderful, and you should do it as much as possible. And if you could do it without harming someone, even better. And if you need to express volatile things, try doing it through song. Get an angry song you like, play it over and over. Try do it through journaling. Go to therapy or get a coach. Go somewhere where somebody can hold the space for your voice. Try not to harm other people with your voice. And do not harm yourself with your voice. The voice is powerful. Thank you, Malik. The voice is powerful. And it holds all the a lot of the power of creativity in this realm. What you speak happens, right? So we have to make appropriate spaces for us to get rid of old shit so we don't bring it into our present reality. I hope y'all have a good rest of the weekend. I'm gonna hop off here, finish my walk, and I appreciate y'all for hanging out with me. Y'all take care of yourselves. Sorry about that sunlight, but that's a good thing. It's fall over here. All right, peace.